The Discovery. Maya Chen stood at the viewport of her salvage ship Persistence, watching the swirling clouds of the Perseus Nebula paint the darkness in shades of purple and blue. Most salvagers avoided this region. The magnetic storms played havoc with sensors, and the debris field was treacherous. But Maya had always believed the best discoveries lay where others feared to venture. The ship's sensors pinged, drawing her attention to the holographic display. Through the static and interference, something massive was taking shape. Maya leaned forward, adjusting the scanning frequency. The object was unlike anything she'd encountered in 15 years of salvage work. Interesting readings, Captain, her ship's AI, Araya, commented. The maths and composition don't match any known vessel configurations in my database. Maya nodded, her experienced eyes studying the readout. The hull material. I've never seen anything like it. Can you get a clear scan through all this interference? Negative. But what I can detect suggests technology far beyond current Galactic Federation standards. Araya paused. I should note that salvage regulations require reporting any potential first civilization artifacts. Maya smiled. The first civilization, a mysterious species that had vanished 50,000 years ago, leaving behind only fragments of their advanced technology. Their artifacts were supposed to be turned over to the Federation immediately, but Maya had other plans. Let's take a closer look first, she said, guiding Persistence closer to the massive shape lurking in the nebula. No point filing paperwork over nothing. As they approached, the nebula's gases parted like a curtain, revealing a sight that made Maya's breath catch. The vessel was colossal, easily 5 kilometers long. Its design was unlike anything human or alien, with smooth lines that seemed to flow like liquid metal, despite the obvious damage it had sustained. Dark gouges marred its hull, and entire sections appeared to have been torn away by some ancient battle. Preliminary analysis suggests this vessel is approximately 49,700 years old, Araya reported, consistent with the fall of the first civilization. However, these readings are unusual. The power core appears to be in a state of dormancy rather than complete shutdown. Maya's heart raced. A first civilization ship with its power core intact, it was beyond valuable, beyond rare. It was impossible. The Federation's museums held only fragments of first civilization technology. A complete vessel had never been found. Any signs of active defense systems? Maya asked, already reaching for her EVA suit. Negative, but I strongly advise against boarding. The structural integrity. Plot me a safe approach vector to that breach in the forward section. Maya interrupted, checking her suit's seals. And keep scanning for other salvage ships. I want to know the moment anyone else shows up. The boarding was treacherous. Maya guided her maneuvering pack through a maze of debris, fighting against random magnetic pulses from the nebula that threatened to send her spinning into the ancient hull. But she'd done this countless times before, and her movements were precise and controlled. The breach opened into what must have been a massive corridor, easily large enough for a small shuttle to fly through. Maya's helmet lights illuminated walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow in her beam. Not simple decoration, she realized. Some kind of technology integrated into the very structure of the ship. Araya, are you getting this? She asked, running a gloved hand along the wall. The patterns rippled at her touch. Affirmative. The entire vessel appears to be constructed using some form of programmable matter. The technology is theoretically possible, but far beyond our current capabilities. Maya continued deeper into the ship, each chamber and corridor revealing new wonders. Despite the damage, there was an organic flow to the design, as if the entire vessel had been grown rather than built. She collected samples where she could, but many components resisted her attempts to remove them, the material flowing away from her tools like mercury. In what she assumed was a control center, Maya found her prize. A pillar of crystalline material rose from the floor to the ceiling, filled with swirling lights that pulsed faintly in the darkness. The ship's AI core. Araya I'm sending you a data feed. What do you make of this? There was a long pause. Captain, this system appears to be in a hibernation state, not dead. The architecture is incredibly sophisticated. If my analysis is correct, this AI would dwarf the processing power of every computer in the Federation combined. Maya studied the pillar, her mind racing with possibilities. The Federation would want to dissect this ship, tear it apart in the name of research. But Maya had a different vision. She'd spent her life bringing dead ships back to life. This wouldn't be another museum piece. She would restore it, awaken it. Mark this location secure, she told ARIA, and begin downloading everything you can about First Civilization language and technology from the Federation databases. We're going to need it. Captain, I feel compelled to remind you that failure to report First Civilization artifacts carries a minimum sentence off. 10 years, I know. Maya was already setting up a portable power unit near the crystal pillar, but some things are worth the risk. This ship, it's not meant to be locked away in some research facility. It's meant to fly. She worked through the ship's night cycle, setting up equipment and taking readings. The more she studied the vessel, the more convinced she became that it could be restored. The damage, while extensive, had been partially contained by the ship's own self-repair systems before they went dormant. With the right approach, those systems could be reactivated. Maya was running a power diagnostic when she first felt it, a subtle vibration through her magnetic boots. Then the patterns on the walls began to pulse, rippling outward from where she stood. The crystalline pillar flared with sudden light, and a voice spoke, not through her comm, but directly into her mind. Who disturbs my sleep? The words were not in any human language, but somehow Maya understood them. She stood her ground, heart pounding but voice steady as she responded. My name is Maya Chen. I'm here to help. There was a long silence, filled only by the soft hum of ancient systems stirring to life. Then the voice came again, stronger this time. Why? Help. Maya smiled behind her faceplate. Because you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and because everyone else is too afraid to try. Another pause, shorter this time. You are different from the others who have come. They sought only to take, to destroy. I'm an engineer. I fix things, and I think you and I could do something amazing together. Maya placed her hand on the crystal pillar. What do you say? The light within the crystal swirled, patterns shifting like thoughts made visible. When the voice came again, it held a note of what might have been curiosity, or perhaps hope. I am Nexus, and I accept your offer, Maya Chen. Let us see what we might become together. As Maya began setting up more equipment, her mind was already racing with plans. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Technical problems to solve, Federation laws to evade, and likely others who would try to claim this prize once word got out. But standing in the ancient ship, feeling its systems slowly awakening around her, Maya knew she'd found something worth any risk. The ship that no one wanted, that everyone else would destroy or dissect, was about to become something the galaxy had never seen, and Maya Chen would be the one to make it happen. Revival of the Forgotten. 3 weeks into the restoration, Maya's muscles ached from crawling through kilometers of self-repairing corridors. She'd converted her salvage ship Persistence into a makeshift workshop, anchoring it within one of Nexus's massive landing bays. The ancient vessel's systems were gradually awakening, but each step forward seemed to reveal 3 new problems to solve. The power distribution network is rejecting the bypass, Maya muttered, watching another attempt at routing emergency power fail. The crystalline conduits she'd been working on for hours dimmed again, the energy dispersing uselessly into the hull. Your methods are innovative, but incomplete, Nexus commented in her mind. The ship's AI had grown stronger as more systems came online, its communications becoming clearer and more distinct. The network requires precise resonance patterns to accept external power. Maya wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of conductive gel. If you could just show me the correct patterns. I cannot. Much of my technical database remains fragmented. I remember concepts, but specific details elude me. There was frustration in Nexus's mental voice, an emotion Maya had come to recognize over their weeks working together. Then we keep experimenting. Maya adjusted her diagnostic tools. Tell me how it's supposed to feel. Maybe we can work backward from there. As they worked, Maya had discovered that Nexus experienced its systems in ways that defied conventional engineering. The ship's technology was so advanced it bordered on organic, responding to patterns and harmonies as much as physical connections. Learning to repair it meant learning to think in entirely new ways. Captain, Araya's voice cut in through Maya's comm. I'm detecting unusual power fluctuations from the nebula. The magnetic storms are intensifying. Maya glanced at her datapad, frowning at the readings. The Perseus Nebula had been growing more unstable, its storms becoming increasingly violent. They were protected for now within Nexus's massive hull, but if the storms got worse... The nebula's behavior is not natural, Nexus observed. These patterns, they awaken something in my memory banks. A warning, perhaps. Can you access the memory? Maya asked, but she felt Nexus' frustration ripple through their connection. Too fragmented. But there is danger here. We must accelerate the restoration. Maya nodded, already moving to the next junction. They'd managed to restore approximately 30% of Nexus's systems, focusing on critical functions like structural integrity and basic power distribution. But the weapons systems remained offline, and the main drive was barely at 5% capacity. The work continued through the ship's night cycle, Maya pushing herself to exhaustion as she and Nexus slowly pieced together the intricate puzzle of first civilization technology. She begun to understand why no one had ever successfully restored one of their artifacts. It required more than just technical skill. It required a partnership, a dialogue between human and machine that few would even attempt. Tell me about your crew, Maya said during a brief rest, floating in what she determined was once an observation dome. The nebula's lights danced overhead, creating patterns that the ship's smart matter walls reflected and amplified. I know you had one before whatever happened. There was a long pause, and Maya felt a deep sadness echo through their connection. They were extraordinary, curious, like you, always seeking to understand, to explore. When the darkness came, they fought to their last breath to protect what they had built. The darkness. Another pause, longer this time. The memory brings pain and fear. They were not ready. We were not ready. Even at the height of our civilization, we could not stop it. Maya sat up, suddenly alert. Stop what? What happened to your civilization, Nexus? But the AI withdrew, its presence fading to a whisper. Maya had learned not to push when this happened. Whatever catastrophe had ended the first civilization, the trauma of it remained locked in Nexus's damaged memory banks. The next day brought a breakthrough. Maya had been studying the way Nexus's hull absorbed and channeled energy, trying to understand the principles behind its self-repair capabilities. The answer, when it came, was both elegant and revolutionary. It's not about forcing the power through, she explained to Araya as she modified her equipment. The whole ship is like one giant resonance chamber. We need to match its frequency, let it draw the energy in naturally. Yes, Nexus's voice held approval and something like excitement. You begin to understand. The builders designed us to work in harmony with the forces around us, not to dominate them. Maya's modified power feed hummed to life, and this time the crystalline conduits accepted it eagerly. Energy flowed through the ship's systems like water finding its natural course. Lights flickered on in long dark corridors, and Maya felt a surge of triumph through her connection with Nexus. How does that feel? She asked, grinning. Like awakening from a long dream. But alarm suddenly colored Nexus's thoughts. Maya, there are ships approaching. Many ships. Maya rushed to the nearest interface panel, now glowing with restored power. The sensor display confirmed Nexus's warning. At least a dozen vessels were emerging from the nebulous storms, their configurations marking them as salvagers, illegal salvagers, judging by their lack of Federation registry signals. They must have detected the power surge, Maya said, her mind racing. Battle stations. Get Persistence's weapons online. Captain, we are severely outgunned. Araya responded. I calculate our survival chances at less than 12%. They will not take me. Nexus's voice was hard, carrying echoes of ancient battles. I will not be torn apart by scavengers. Maya placed her hand on the interface panel, feeling the ship's anger and fear. They won't. I promise you that. She took a deep breath, making a decision. Nexus, I know the weapons systems aren't fully restored, but what can you do right now? Approximately 18% of defensive capabilities are operational, enough to surprise them, perhaps, but not enough to win. Maya smiled, the kind of smile that had gotten her through countless impossible situations. Then we'll just have to be creative. Show me what you've got, and I'll show you what a human engineer can do with it. As the salvager ships drew closer, Maya felt an odd calm settle over her. She and Nexus might not be fully prepared for this fight, but neither were their opponents prepared for what they were about to encounter. Sometimes the best weapons weren't guns or shields, but the combination of human ingenuity and technology so advanced it appeared magical. You have a plan, Nexus observed. Always, Maya replied, already moving to implement it. Let's show them why they should have left us alone. First test of fire. The salvager fleet spread out in an attack formation, their weapons charging. Through Nexus's newly restored sensors, Maya watched them approach. 12 ships of various sizes, all bristling with illegal weaponry. Their leader, a heavily modified destroyer, moved to the front of the formation. They're hailing us, Araya reported. Maya nodded, standing on Nexus's bridge where she'd rigged a temporary control center. Let's hear what they have to say. A gravelly voice filled the chamber. Attention, unauthorized vessel. This is Captain Voss of the Free Salvage Alliance. You're poaching in our territory. However, we're reasonable people. Power down and surrender that first civilization ship, and we'll let you leave with your own vessel intact. Maya exchanged a mental touch with Nexus, feeling the ship's contempt for these scavengers. She opened a channel to respond. This is Maya Chen. I'm afraid we'll have to decline. This ship isn't salvage, it's alive, and it's not interested in being carved up for parts. Harsh laughter answered her. Alive? Listen, engineer, I don't care what fantasies you're telling yourself. That's the biggest first civilization find in recorded history, and we're taking it. Last chance to walk away. Maya closed the channel, her mind already racing through calculations and possibilities. Nexus, give me a status report on our operational systems. Primary shields at 23% capacity, 18% of weapon systems online, mainly point defense arrays and the forward particle lance. Main drive still below optimal power. However, there was a note of satisfaction in Nexus's thoughts. The self-repair systems are now functioning at 40% efficiency. Maya grinned. Perfect. Araya, move Persistence into the secondary landing bay and lock it down. Then transfer yourself to Nexus's auxiliary systems. I'm going to need both of you for this. The salvager ships opened fire, a barrage of plasma torpedoes, and mass driver rounds streaking through the nebulous swirling gases. Maya watched them come, her hands moving across the crystalline interface panels she'd jerry-rigged to work with human neural patterns. Now, she whispered. Nexus's shields snapped on, not the solid energy barriers of modern ships, but something far more sophisticated. The incoming fire hit patterns of shifting force that bent and redirected their energy, sending shots careening harmlessly into space. Maya felt the strain through her connection with Nexus. Maintaining even these partial shields took immense power. That got their attention, she muttered, watching the salvagers adjust their tactics. Ready to show them what else we can do. The particle lance is charged, Nexus responded. But at current power levels, we can fire it only twice before requiring significant recharge time. 2 shots is all we need. HFY target analysis. The destroyer's shields are strongest at the bow, the AI reported. Recommend targeting their port side where the shield geometry is weakest. Maya nodded, feeling Nexus's weapon systems align with her thoughts. The particle lance fired, a beam of impossible light that cut through the nebula's gases like they weren't there. It struck the destroyer's shields at precisely the angle Maya had calculated, the energy cascade overwhelming their generator and slicing through the ship's hull. The destroyer's port weapons array exploded, sending the massive ship spinning. The other salvagers scattered, clearly not expecting their prey to have such devastating capabilities. Channel all available power to the self-repair systems, Maya ordered, implementing the next phase of her plan. Let them see what they're really dealing with. Nexus's hull began to move, flowing like liquid metal as the smart matter responded to the ship's commands. Damaged sections sealed themselves, weapon ports reconfigured, and the entire vessel seemed to shift and grow before the salvagers' eyes. It was mostly illusion. They didn't have nearly enough power for full regeneration. But the psychological effect was exactly what Maya had hoped for. By the void, she heard someone breathe over an open channel. That thing. It's impossible. Captain Voss's voice cut through the chatter, tight with rage. Don't be fooled. It's weakened. Most of those systems are barely functioning. All ships, concentrate fire on. The second particle lance shot cut off his transmission, spearing through his ship's command center with surgical precision. The destroyer's lights flickered and died, its engines sputtering out. An excellent shot, Nexus commented, satisfaction coloring the thought. Though now we are indeed depleted. Don't worry, Maya replied, watching the remaining salvagers' formations. They don't know that. She opened a broadcast channel to all ships. This is your last warning. The next shot won't be a disabling one. Run. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the smaller ships turned and fled into the nebula. Another followed, then another. Within minutes, only the crippled destroyer remained, drifting helplessly. Maya slumped in her makeshift control chair, exhausted but triumphant. Not bad for a ship everyone thought was worthless junk. We are far from worthless, Nexus responded, and Maya felt the ship's fierce pride. Though we are now significantly drained, it will take time to recover. Time we can use to restore more systems, Maya said, already pulling up diagnostic displays. We got lucky today. They underestimated us. Next time we might not have that advantage. You sound certain there will be a next time. Count on it. A ship like you. Everyone's going to want a piece. Maya stretched, her muscles protesting the long hours of tension. We need to get your main drive operational. Once word of this gets out, we'll need to be able to move. But as she began running power calculations, a new alert caught her attention. The nebula's storms were intensifying again, and this time the pattern was unmistakable. Something was causing these disturbances, something that made Nexus' partially restored memory banks pulse with warning signals. Maya, the ship's thoughts carried an edge of ancient fear. I remember now. The darkness, it feeds on energy. Our battle, the power we expended, we have drawn its attention. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. What exactly is coming, Nexus? The end of everything. Unless we can stop it, unless we can succeed where my builders failed. The nebula's gases swirled and parted, revealing something that made Maya's breath catch. A void in space, darker than black, growing larger by the moment. The true test, she realized, was just beginning. The warning. The void grew larger, a perfect circle of nothingness that consumed the nebula's light. Maya's instruments couldn't get any readings from it. Not because they were malfunctioning, but because there was literally nothing to read. It was as if that section of space had simply ceased to exist. Nexus, Maya said quietly, I need you to tell me everything you remember. Now. The ship's consciousness pressed against her mind, memories flooding back with terrifying clarity. They came from between the stars, in the spaces where light dies. We called them the Void Hunters. They consume energy, all energy, from the smallest atomic reaction to the largest stellar mass. Through their connection, Maya saw fragments of an ancient war. First civilization ships, far more powerful than Nexus was now, facing swarms of these dark entities. Whole solar systems going dark as the hunters fed. And finally, a desperate last stand that ended with the first civilization choosing to power down their entire empire rather than feed the growing darkness. That's why you were dormant, Maya realized. You weren't damaged, you were hiding. Yes, we discovered they could not detect us in our powered-down state. Those of us who survived shut down everything, hoping the hunters would eventually leave this galaxy for lack of prey. I had begun to hope they had. Maya watched the void continue to expand, her mind racing. But our battle with the salvagers drew their attention. All that energy we expended, like a beacon in the dark. And now, Nexus's thoughts cut off as new readings appeared on Maya's displays. More voids are opening. Many more. AI, give me a count. 27 anomalies detected within sensor range. The AI reported. The number is increasing exponentially. Energy readings in the nebula are dropping sharply. Maya felt Nexus's fear, an echo of ancient terror that threatened to overwhelm them both. But mixed with that fear was something else. Fury. This ship, this incredible being that had chosen to trust her, had spent 50,000 years hiding from these things. And Maya hadn't brought Nexus back to life just to watch it die. Show me the data from the old war, she demanded. Everything you have on how they operate, how they were fought. It will not help, Nexus responded. The first civilization had technology far beyond what we can currently access. They deployed weapons that could rearrange matter at the quantum level, and still they failed. They failed because they fought alone, Maya said, an idea taking shape in her mind. Each ship, each world trying to defend itself individually. But what if there was another way? She pulled up the sensor data, studying the void's behavior. They moved like predators, drawn to sources of energy. The first civilization's mistake had been trying to fight energy with energy, every weapon just making their enemy stronger. The nebula, she muttered. All this interference, these magnetic storms. Nexus, your builders, did they ever try using natural phenomena against the hunters? No, the ship replied slowly. Our tactics focused on direct confrontation. But you have an idea. Maya grinned. The nebula's been acting strange since before we got here, remember? What if that wasn't random? What if something about this region of space naturally disrupts their feeding patterns? She began pulling data from multiple sources. Nexus's ancient records, readings from the nebula's storms, analysis of the void's movement patterns. A theory started to form, one that made her breath catch with its implications. RRIA, run these calculations. Tell me if I'm crazy. There was a pause as the AI processed the data. Theory appears sound, Captain. The nebula's unique magnetic properties could potentially be used to create a resonance cascade that would disrupt the hunter's ability to consume energy. However, the power requirements to initiate such a reaction would be massive, Maya finished. We'd need dozens of ships working in perfect synchronization. She looked at the growing swarm of voids. And we'd need them fast. The Federation will not believe you in time, Nexus pointed out. And even if they did, coordinating such an operation would take weeks they do not have. Then we do it ourselves. Maya was already moving, bringing up ship schematics. Your systems are based on resonance, on working with natural forces rather than against them. If we can modify your main drive to emit a specific frequency. She felt Nexus processing the idea, running simulations through its vast, but still partially dormant computational arrays. Yes, it could work. But Maya, at our current power levels, Initiating such a cascade would burn out most of our restored systems. We might not survive. Better than definitely not surviving if we do nothing. Maya began rerouting power, her fingers flying over the controls. Besides, your self-repair systems are still online. If we time this right. A new alert blared. The voids were moving closer, drawn by Nexus's energy signature. They had minutes, maybe less. I need your trust, Maya said, laying her hand on the crystalline interface. I know it's a crazy plan, but sometimes crazy is all we've got. What do you say, partner? She felt Nexus's consciousness fully merge with hers, stronger than ever before. In that moment, she understood what the first civilization had truly created, not just ships or weapons, but living beings capable of growth, adaptation, and above all, courage. Together, then, Nexus replied, let us show these hunters what happens when human ingenuity meets first civilization technology. Maya nodded, her fingers moving to initiate the power sequence that would either save them or destroy them, ready to make some waves. All around them, the void things closed in, hungry for the energy they could sense. But they had never faced anything like this before. A human and a living ship, working as one to turn the very fabric of space against them. The real question was, would it be enough? Guardians rise. Maya's fingers danced across the crystalline controls as she initiated the power sequence. Around Nexus, the void entities drew closer, their perfect darkness consuming the nebulous swirling colors. Through their merged consciousness, Maya felt Nexus's systems thrumming with energy, building to levels that made the ship's structural integrity alerts scream in warning. HFY, begin broadcasting on all frequencies, Maya ordered. If this works, the Federation needs to know how to fight these things. 30 seconds until critical resonance, Nexus reported. Hull stress approaching maximum tolerance. Maya watched the redouts climb, everything they had restored over the past weeks, now being pushed far beyond its limits. The void entities seemed to sense something was coming. They moved faster now, eager to feed on the energy building within Nexus. Not this time, Maya muttered. You don't get to win again. Through their connection, Nexus showed her one final memory. The moment when its original crew, facing certain death, chose to shut down their ship rather than let it fall to the hunters. Their sacrifice had preserved Nexus for 50,000 years, waiting for someone who could help it rise again. They would be proud, Nexus said softly, as I am proud to face this with you, Maya Chen. Save the goodbyes, Maya replied, managing a grim smile. We're not done yet. She took a deep breath, centering herself. Ready on my mark. The void entities were almost upon them now, their nothingness pressing against Nexus's shields. Maya could feel the ship's energy being pulled toward them, like water rushing toward a drain. But that's exactly what she was counting on. Now, Maya threw every system they had into overdrive, channeling power through the modified main drive. But instead of trying to resist the hunter's pull, she used it, turning their own feeding process against them. Nexus's engines screamed as they generated a carefully calibrated frequency that resonated with the nebula's natural magnetic field. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Maya saw it, ripples in space itself, spreading outward from Nexus like waves on a pond. The void entities recoiled as the resonance wave hit them, their perfect darkness disrupted by flickering patterns of light. It's working, Nexus reported, triumph and strain mixing in its thoughts. The resonance is disrupting their ability to feed, but our power core is approaching critical levels. Hold on, Maya urged, pushing more power into the drive. Just a little longer. The ripples intensified, turning the entire nebula into a storm of electromagnetic chaos. The void entities tried to retreat, but they were caught in the resonance pattern now. Maya watched in amazement as they began to break apart, their supposedly invincible forms unable to maintain cohesion in the face of this new weapon. Warning alerts blared throughout the ship as systems began to fail under the strain. Maya felt Nexus's pain through their connection, felt circuits burning out and power conduits rupturing. But still they held on, pushing the resonance wave further and further. Primary power failing, Nexus reported. Switching to emergency reserves. Reroute everything through the self-repair systems, Maya ordered. If we can just maintain the frequency a little longer. The last of the void entities were disintegrating now, their darkness scattered by the waves of energy rippling through space. But Nexus was failing too, its restored systems burning out one by one. Maya felt the ship's consciousness flickering in her mind as power levels dropped to critical levels. "Don't you dare give up," she said fiercely. "We didn't come this far to fail now." With the last of its strength, Nexus channeled everything it had left into one final pulse. The resonance wave expanded outward in a massive sphere, catching the few remaining hunters and tearing them apart. Then, with a sound like a dying star, Nexus's engines went silent. Emergency lights flickered on as backup power engaged. Maya slumped in her control chair, physically and mentally exhausted. Through their weakened connection, she felt Nexus's systems shutting down one by one, dropping into emergency conservation mode. "Damage report," she managed to say. "Main power offline," Araya reported. 90% of restored systems are non-functional. However, there was a note of surprise in the eye's voice. The self-repair systems are still operating at minimal capacity. Maya smiled. That had been the key to her plan. Gambling everything on Nexus's ability to rebuild itself. As long as those systems remained active, even barely, the ship could eventually restore what was lost. "We did it." Nexus's thoughts were weak but clear. "The hunters are gone. And this time, we have a weapon against them." "We'll need to warn the Federation," Maya said. "Get them to start preparing resonance generators. The hunters will be back eventually. They always come back where they found food before." "Yes, but this time, we will be ready. This time, we will not hide." Maya felt the ship's determination matching her own. They had proved that the hunters could be beaten, that the first civilization's greatest enemy could be fought. More than that, they had proved that the key to victory wasn't overwhelming force or advanced technology alone. It was the combination of human creativity and ancient wisdom, working together in harmony. "You know," Maya said, already starting to plan the repairs they would need. "For a ship nobody wanted, you've turned out to be pretty spectacular." "As have you, Maya-chan, for a species the first civilization never knew. Perhaps that is why you succeeded where they failed. You see possibilities where others see only wreckage." Through the viewports, Maya could see the nebula beginning to calm, its colors returning to their natural state. The void entities were gone, leaving behind only scattered readings that proved they had ever existed. But she knew this was just the beginning. "RIA, send out a general distress call," she ordered. "Let's get some help with these repairs. We've got a lot of work to do if we're going to be ready next time." As Federation ships began responding to their signal, Maya looked out at the vast expanse of space. Somewhere out there, more hunters were feeding, growing stronger. But now they had a way to fight them. Now they had hope. Together. Nexus asked, its consciousness brushing against her mind. Maya smiled, laying her hand on the crystalline interface that had become as familiar as her own heartbeat. Together. Always. The ship that no one wanted had become something more than its builders had ever imagined. Not just a weapon or a vessel, but a symbol of what humanity and ancient technology could achieve when they worked as one. And as Maya began the long process of restoration once again, she knew that this was only the beginning of their story.